2022, 2023, we had Gemini Mars direct, retrograde, direct, in which it spent 7 months in Gemini. 7 months in Gemini. This was bringing a separation in the ethereal over the people as it relates to Gemini themes, which is battle of the swords, intellectual perspectives, oppositions, disagreements, scrutiny, analyzing in opposition. This drew a line right down the middle between the divine masculine and divine feminine as it relates to the Mars and Venus axis, copper and iron, who I like to recognize as Oshun through Venus and Ogun through Mars. Understand? This separation is what initiated the modern civil war, in which the modern civil war takes place through media. Understand? Through media. This also has to do with the axis and polarities of liberalism and conservatism, or democracy, or Republican dispositions, and how we view our political, social, and even domestic experience. Now, with that being said, walking down memory lane concerning Mars activity so that we could have insight into the current transit of Mars and what's intended here. Mars is doing the same thing as it did in Gemini, but it's doing so in the water, the emotionality. Understand? A point of salvation. Cancer, 4th house, a point of salvation. That is salvation with self through reconciliation between self and inner child, ego and inner child. Understand? Now, Gemini has to do with the ethereal of the self, okay? Cancer has to do with the emotionality of the self, air and water. Now, Mars accomplished this already with the ethereal, the mindset, in which there's the battle of the swords of the two polarities. These two polarities were, through liberalism, taking a position and defending the reality perceived through Venus. And of course, in opposition is the reality of perceiving the world or life through Mars. These two were in opposition. Now, both Mars and Venus are the adolescence of divine masculine and divine feminine. It is not the maturity of divine masculine and divine feminine. The maturity of divine feminine is through the lunar expression, which is the moon. The maturity of the divine masculine is through Saturn expression. Understand? Now, as it relates to Cancer Mars transit, a separation is taking place here as well. Now, what's the difference here? The difference is that Mars brought the division or civil war through Gemini, which now lends the winner to be the conservative, the right wing, the red jacket, divine masculine, the logic. Understand? Conservative values. This is who won the Civil War. Being that this is the winner of the Civil War, which the winner is confirmed through the presidency, in which Donald Trump became the standing president, now the culture has to set in. So when there are two opposing sides, somebody has to then establish their flag, their constitution, their rules, their laws, the jurisdiction, the expectations, all of these things. The culture now has to be according to the winner. The narrative now changes according to the winner of the war. Okay, so the Civil War was set up when Elon Musk purchased Twitter. Okay, that is what initiated it. Last time the musket was shot from Sumter, South Carolina. Okay, that was in old times. In modern times, Civil War, the modern Civil War, was started when Elon Musk purchased Twitter. And we're going to walk down that timeline. This Civil War, it was a tension that was escalating since November 11, 2008, when Obama took presidency. Okay, this is when Venus and Mars started to generate an opposition between each other. What generated the opposition was the acceleration of feminism, the acceleration of African American females bringing in the rainbow flag into the fight, the Transformers into the sacred civil rights acts and fights. Understand? So when they invited these beneficiaries into their ancestors' sacred civil rights activism under the influence of the Obama era, this started to establish an irritation, an animosity, a resentment between the two polarities, Mars and Venus. Mars began to be offended at its isolation and rejection from society as feminism became emboldened. And as feminism developed, or liberalism that is, brought in cancel culture, Mars then became debilitated. Mars became silenced, that is, action, silenced. Mars became silenced. Mars became rejected. Mars representing Ogun, the god of war, according to Ifa Yoruba tradition, we know that Ogun came down from the hill dressed in blood and fire. Dressed in blood and fire. Blood representing the fact that Ogun is always victorious, but also that the truth always is at the forefront of conflict and war. The truth. Ogun also begat fire. And that he begat fire, it represents the fact that the principle of Ogun, Mars, or truth, Aries, as well as Scorpio, these principles culminated. It represents infamy. It represents infamy. To be famous for objection and rejection. To be famous for violence, war, animosity, oppositions, and not necessarily because of an ill intent, but the fact that the truth has no friend. And Ogun represents the spirit of truth. That's what Ogun represents. Thus, Mars representing spirit of truth. Truth has no friends. Venus came in direct opposition to the truth. She became in direct opposition to Mars through feminism. This is the forces and powers, the impulse of Venus being misused by the principalities in high places. The principalities in high places having respite, utilize females, the weakness of females, the distraction of females, the emotional vulnerability of females to lure them into allowing their natural forces powers, the cosmic forces and powers, to be used not only against themselves, but the family unit and society overall. Now, with that being said, the onset of this civil war wasn't possible without Elon Musk purchasing Twitter. By Elon Musk purchasing Twitter, It brought back into society the option to have a platform where truth can be spoken without facing cancel culture. Feminists and liberals of society push cancel culture so that there's no objection to their behaviors and a culture that they themselves were promoting and pushing out into the world that would go against the natural conscience of the human being, our moral compass. Feminists and liberals were pushing behaviors, ideas, ideologies, theologies, and a culture that went against what our moral compass would suggest is in our best interests, against all the things that are sacred in this life, in this world. And with them pushing what is against what is sacred and what is morally objective, they did not want the opposition of truth to present a correction, an adjustment, admonition, a challenge to what they're pushing out. So cancel culture had to block and stop truth from hurling itself at falsehood. Falsehood can never overcome truth. Lies can never overcome truth. Darkness can never overcome light. But they utilize the cosmic powers of females to push cancel culture so that truth can be silenced, blocked, or stopped for a while. For a while. When Elon Musk purchased Twitter, that brought back a platform where people had the option to say the truth without getting canceled or penalized. Because by this time, it was already set in place that social media platforms would now have to participate in silence culture. Culture that silences people's free thoughts, words, expressions, and opinions. It was Twitter that allowed the world to have the option again to go somewhere where they could say what they really think and feel. Understand? Now, it's our right as American citizens to have free speech. Free speech. Understand? It is our right to have free speech. So, again, this was an ethereal circumstance that Mars was dealing with through Gemini. Now that Mars is in Cancer, this is emotional. It is of the water, Cancer, okay? Now, because it's of emotional Cancer, this has everything to do with culture. So, the right, conservative Mars, Ogun, he won this war. He won this civil war through Trump, okay? The people actually chose. They chose, okay, what energy would be upheld and uplifted, and that is Mars, okay? Now, with that being said, trying to build my case, trying to structure this discourse. Now, the winner is the one who establishes the culture. Culture comes through Cancer because culture has to be close to the home. It has to be close to the soul. It has to be close to emotional and mental security. And our security is in our values, because our values is behind our boundaries that secures us. It secures our identity. It secures our person. It secures our body even, because it is the limitations. It is the containment, the barricade that is around that which is valuable, that which is vulnerable, the self. Understand? Having said that, a new culture has to come in, but it has to be fought for. It was already fought for to have the right to bring in this culture. So Mars is at Cancer with this retrograde, not Venus. If Venus was at this retrograde in Cancer, it would be a Venetian culture that's going to set in. But this is a Mars culture that's going to set in because it's Mars that's retrograde at Cancer. Okay? It's Mars, not Venus. If it was Venus, it would be liberalism. It will be feminism. Okay? It will be according to the ideals of females. Because this is Mars, it's according to the ideals of males mostly. It is divine masculine. It is the right wing. It is conservative values. It is also a culture where truth has a place again. It is a culture where logic has a place again, where conservatism has free expression and mobility again. The values and principles of Ogun now takes over society as the standard culture. This also includes owning the narrative, in which the narrative will manifest through owning media. So Republican and conservative ideals are also going to take over media. It is already put out into the ethereal that Elon Musk did entertain purchasing MSNBC. Okay? Allegedly. Now, if he purchases MSNBC, just like he did Twitter, this certainly is going to have an impact just as great as his purchase of Twitter. His purchase of Twitter is what allowed truth to challenge falsehood. And we know that it takes libraries, volumes of libraries, to tell a lie. But it simply takes one word to tell the truth. Okay? So one word of truth can dispel a library of lies. That's the power of truth. Understand? So, having said that, if he does pick up MSNBC, this is a very big chess move on the table. Now, already it's a promise, it's a prophecy, it's a guarantee that the culture of the winner is now going to be established, which the winner is Mars, conservatism. Understand? That's what's coming down the pipeline. We're no longer going to have a liberal culture. We're not going to have a culture of feminism. We're not going to have a culture of hot girl summer. We're not going to have a culture of, I don't know if you're a boy or a girl. We're not going to have a culture of he, him, her. We're not going to have that culture of turn up. Just hypersexuality. Girl this, girl, paint the world pink. That's over. That's a past story, okay? We take turns owning the narrative. And we take turns owning the narrative because we take turns enlightening each other from our darkness and our light. Okay, understand? Now let's walk back and make some clarification. Now, January 2022, Elon Musk begins buying Twitter shares. Okay. April 14th, 2022, Musk makes an unsolicited offer to buy Twitter for $44 billion. Okay. This is off of Google. April 25th, 2022, Twitter's board accepts Musk's offer. Okay. July 2022, Musk attempts to terminate the deal, citing Twitter's failure to address spam bot accounts. Now, the spam bot accounts was a big deal because when you have spam bot accounts, you could push a narrative as being supported by the people, but it's not. Okay? You could have somebody, okay, like for example, take me for example, right? I'm the infamous. And because I'm the infamous, not too many people are going to show up. All right? It's going to be a small audience because I deal in truth. I'm the son of Ogun, Ogun. And people can't handle that. All right? So it's always going to be a small audience. Now, I could go and buy some bots and I can make it look like I'm popping, right? I go and buy a whole bunch of bots to fill in the audience. And these bots make all kind of comments. Oh, Ifabukola, you the best. Oh, Ifabukola, yeah, I appreciate it. Yeah, Ifabukola, you good looking out. Ifabukola, great message. Oh, yeah, Ifabukola, yeah, definitely. Yo, that's a good detail to consider. Let me look into that. Yada, yada, yada. And it looks like I got mad people in my timeline support me, showing me love, giving me props, all this other stuff. And it gives people impression that what I'm saying holds more weight. It's more heavy. It's more official because I'm making noise. All right. These are bots. So this is a key detail when it comes to matters such as voting, manufacturing of the ideals, consent, perceptions, and opinions and feelings, sentiment of the people. Because human beings are impressionable. When they see that somebody has a crowd, they assume that that's value. But when they don't see a crowd, they assume that there's no value or there's less value. But that's an illusion. Just because somebody has a crowd doesn't mean that they have more value. Just because somebody has a smaller crowd doesn't mean that they have less value. Because the truth is, the truth speaker has a small crowd. The entertainer has a big crowd. That's the truth. It's an illusion. And see, by having bots, you can manufacture this feeling, this sentiment. Thus, you can manufacture a narrative. You can fill the audience with specific opinions, thoughts, and things that people would say if it wasn't a bot, that people would say, and people go through the comment section to figure out what their identity is. They go to the comment section to figure out what opinion they should have, what thought they should have. This is how the average person thinks. They're very shallow. Most people don't have identity. So they go to the comment section to find their identity and how they should respond, how they should think, how they should feel about this person or about this thing. You could put bots in there on a police stop and everybody in the comments talking about, oh, racism, 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 racism. And because you don't have your own critical thinking strength, you assume that the comment section, whatever most people are saying in the comment section, that must be true. This is South Node Libra. That's what South Node Libra is. Public opinion that manufactures your thought. Public opinion that manufactures your opinion. Public opinion that manufactures your sentiment, your feelings. Public opinion. And this is why the universe interfered by the power of God to undo this habit that we have of looking to the audience to find out if we should say yes or no. Looking to the audience to find out if we should agree or disagree. Rather than not, we should show up or not. Like some fucking ducks that are flying in the sky. People that hunt ducks, they use fake ducks at times and put them in the pond to make it look like there's a duck population. Oh, there's already ducks there. It must be safe. Whack, whack. So now they flying down there and get shot. It's like when you get married, as a man, you're more attractive to women when you're married. More women want you when you're married than they do when you're single. Because you're already pre-verified. You understand? So the bots gives pre-verification to the subject matter that's being proposed. And that's what democracy is. Democracy is to manufacture the thoughts, feelings, opinions, and sentiment of the people, to manufacture their opinions. We gotta understand that. That's what democracy is all about. You don't have to think. You don't have to have critical thinking skills. Just trust what you feel. Go with what you feel. Go do what everybody else is doing. What's popular? What's a popular opinion? And this is the main crisis of females. This is the main problem with females, is a lack of identity. You have to wait until you see the comment section before you make up your mind, before you know what to say or what not to say. And you jump on the bandwagon. That's South Node Libra, codependency. Relying on public opinion. Understand? So, Musk attempts to terminate the deal with Twitter's failure to address spam bot accounts. July 11, 2022, Twitter sues Musk for not going ahead with the deal. August 2022, Musk uses a Twitter whistleblower to elevate his countersuit. Understand? Countersuit. You know what I mean? Like this nigga know karate. Understand? October 27, 2022, Musk completes the acquisition and becomes the new owner and CEO of Twitter. October 27th, 2022. Musk completes the acquisition and becomes the new owner and CEO of Twitter. At this time, the liberal public media was going crazy. They shit in their pants. They were scared, shook, terrified. Oh my God. There's a place where people can go and say the truth. What are we going to do? Right? And these are the females, liberal females, the feminist females, and the effeminate males, and the rainbow. That's who's over there on the left. That's who's over there with the Democrats. That's who's over there with the liberals, okay? It's the house of dysfunction, okay? They want to uphold the lies. They want to uphold the deceit. They want to uphold everything that goes against truth. They want cancel culture to last and last and last so that their degeneracy can last along with them, all right? Now, October 28, 2022, Musk fires key executives, including CEO Parag Agrawal and Policy Director Vijaya Gade or Gady. I don't know how to say that. But anyway, he fired them, okay? Musk lays off half of Twitter's workforce, close to 4,000 people, November 4th, 2022, all right? Now, this isn't about Musk, but it's about the fact that this energy found a catalyst and an archetype to express itself through, which happened to be Musk, okay? So what had to happen from heaven found a means in the earth. It formed, that is, a means in the earth to express its schedule out into the world, which was through Elon Musk's actions. Understand? What is in the heaven reflects itself in the events that we experience on earth. This is a heavenly expression that expresses itself through the events and timelines of earth. So this timeline right there is what started the Civil War. Because Mars was already working on the mind and the hearts, which is Gemini, okay, the balance of the mind and heart. It was working on bringing conflict between the two. But this is constructive conflict. Ogun came down covered in blood and fire. Therefore, Mars comes down covered in blood and fire. Blood and fire, it comes down in infamy. And infamy because I come with the truth. Anyone who comes with the truth is infamous, okay? Because people don't like truth speakers. People don't feel comfortable with truth speakers. People who speak the truth start trouble. They start conflict. Just as Jesus said, I come to set son against father and daughter against mother. Why? Because Jesus brought the truth. Christ, that is, brought the truth. The Christ impulse brings the truth. So anyone who comes to bring the truth, they also bring in conflict. They're bringing tension. They're bringing disagreements. They're bringing arguments. Okay, so Mars brought truth back. It returned truth to be accessible to the people. And that's what scared the liberals. That's what scared the left. That's what scared feminists. That's what scared these lost females out here especially. Understand? I have Mars in the 11th house conjunct the sun. Okay? And you can hear it in me that I'm covered in blood and fire. Okay? That's why I'm the infamous. Okay? I'm covered in blood and fire. People are not going to like me. They're not going to be comfortable with me. I'm going to remain infamous because Ogun begat fire and he's covered in blood. Covered in blood because it is inevitable that he always has enemies. Okay? Because truth is nobody's friend. Let's understand this. Okay? It's the blood of his enemies that he was covered with. You understand? Okay? This is the principle of Ogun. Now, All right, let me cook. Let me finish cooking this. You know what I'm saying? Finish cooking this. Okay, right. Okay. So look at this timeline. Look at the timeline of the Mars transit through Gemini, the ethereal, which is the balance of the heart and the mind. Okay. This is what severed a line down the middle between masculine and feminine, liberal and conservative. Okay. This is where civil war began. Now, Mars entered Gemini August 20th, 2022. August 20th, 2022. Mars enters shadow retrograde at 8 degrees Gemini September 3rd, 2022. Mars station retrograde at 25 degrees Gemini October 31st, 2022. Mars station direct at 8 degrees Gemini January 13th, 2023. Mars leaves Gemini March 20th. March 25th. Okay, March 25th, 2023. Understand? March 25th, 2023. So, 7 months Mars was there, dividing the two sides, turning one side blue, one side red, raising the reality of two worlds. Okay? What do I mean by reality of two worlds? You hear people say things like, I'm just speaking my truth. There's no such thing as somebody speaking their truth. You can speak your reality, but the truth is the truth. Okay? The truth is not subject to your reality. You're speaking your reality. You're not speaking your truth. There is the truth, and that is it. Okay? It's not your truth. It is the truth. It is your reality. And reality is what makes world. Okay? Perception, reality, world. It goes in that order. Okay? Your perception casts a reality, and that reality, it casts a world, which is how we can be in the same earth, but in different worlds, because even though we're in the same place, we have different perceptions. We have different outlooks that forms different realities that makes us subject to different worlds. Alhamdulillahi Rabbil Alameen. Praise be to Allah, the Lord of all worlds, plural of all worlds. Understand? All realities, all perceptions, all points of views. Understand? So, this timeline, as you can see, it correlates with all that had to take place to set up the grounds for civil war. This grounds of civil war, it was especially noticeable in two places. That is the online talking points between males and females. It also was the online talking points between Democrats and liberals. Or that is, well, Democrats, liberals, and conservatives. Understand? Conservatives and liberals, okay? These talking points of these polarities. And it presented dualism in a sense, obviously through Gemini, that would lead to depth of perception, that would lead to a deeper wisdom once this war was over. And truth always wins in the end. And truth won this time as well. Not meaning that Donald Trump is the truth, but what it means is that the people embraced truth. They became disillusioned. And through Donald Trump, they saw that there may be a possibility for them to have a closer expression of what their needs are and their reality of truth, according to Mars, okay, the bringer of truth, who descended with blood and fire. Understand? So the people are descending with blood and fire. Understand? They turn red. Now, having said that, the talking points gave us a preparation for what would give us a being of Aquarius. Aquarius is to become the water bearer. But we can't become the water bearer without water. That water is wisdom, actually. Understand? Bearing the burden of wisdom. So to bear the burden of wisdom, you have to have experience, trial and error. And this experience in trial and error was the conflict between man and woman, liberalism and conservatism. Okay? Venus and Mars principles, iron and copper. So with this conflict and friction, it causes depth of knowledge and wisdom through trial and error. I hurt you and you hurt me. I offend you and you offend me. It's like a married couple. They argue, they fight, they go back and forth. But hopefully, if they can embrace understanding, it will benefit them to argue. It will benefit them to go back and forth because there is a healthy way to argue. There is a healthy way to disagree. And it will enrich your spirit. It will enrich your mind. It will enrich your heart. It will enrich the love. It will perfect the love. So by us going through these oppositions, these polarities, we access a deeper understanding of our differences. We access a deeper understanding of ourselves. As a conservative looks over at the liberal looks at the conservative. As the feminist looks over at the conservative male, and conservative male looks back at the feminist. The talking points had to remain civil enough to make born understanding. What would make it civil enough to make born understanding? Here's the trick. I want you to argue. Mars says in Gemini, I want you guys to argue through this, to argue as an expression of civil war. I want you to fight as an expression of civil war. But so that we make it productive, here's what we're going to do. We're going to descend down into the earth cancel culture. And that cancel culture is going to be a referee that blows a whistle every time somebody says something inflammatory or emotionally challenging. And what is that going to do? It forces us to express ourselves in higher frequency, higher wisdom. That's what it does. Okay? So it forces us to find a clever way to say things. As I say all the time, how do you tell your wife she's getting fat without hurting her feelings? How do you guide a woman without hurting her? How do you teach a woman? How do you love a woman? How do you do anything with a woman without hurting her? Okay? It's a challenge from the superior wisdom and mystery of the heavens, okay? To benefit a woman as a husband without hurting her feelings or offending her. But guess what it does? It makes you wiser to learn that skill. It makes you wiser. Because when you deal with females, feelings are always in the way. And you could say something or do something with the intent to help them, to protect them, to even save them from themselves. And they will take it as offense. Oh, you hurt me. Oh, you did this. Oh, you did that. But you were only trying to help. You trying to control me. You trying to, oh, you're misogynistic, but you're just trying to help. How do you love a woman without hurting her? How do you tell her something for her own good without hurting her? And no, it's not the truth. Oh, you just got to say it nice. No, we all know that's not true. We all know that's not true. We are in the Aquarian age. This is the time where we have to start being honest. Honest, not politically correct. Honest. It's time to be honest finally, because that's where the results are going to come in at. A man who knows how to guide and protect a woman, or be honest and truthful to a woman without hurting her and without offending her, is truly wise. He's in touch with his divine feminine. He's in touch with his divine masculine in harmony and balance. Therefore, his heart and his mind, it's at 0 degrees balance. Understand? So this is it's like a safety switch. Okay? We have to duke it out in the Civil War. But we have to do it where I'm learning from my interaction with you and you're learning from your interaction from me. And we all know that this Civil War takes place on the internet. It takes place online because this is where it's ethereal, okay? Mars was in an ethereal position in Gemini. Because it's ethereal, we know this is going to take place on the internet. The Civil War will take place online. And it did. All of the arguing, the going back and forth, it was online. Podcasts, news channels, social networks, social media of all kinds, Instagram, the Twitters, the TikTok, Facebook, so on and so forth, X. All of these platforms, YouTube, especially YouTube, all of these platforms were hosting these dialogues, these arguments, this civil war between the sexes and between the liberal and conservative point of view. But cancel culture, yes, it stopped the truth from moving, but it also forced us to become wiser in how we articulate, wiser in how we make our point. And it made us hypersensitive to the feelings of others, the emotionality of others, because it was females who had to be brought back into the truth. It was females who had to be argued in a healthy way to where they could redeem themselves from loss in their own freedom, dysfunction in their own freedom. How do you reach them when their ego is in the way, when they're emotionally insecure about what they think is freedom and liberty, and they think you're coming to take it from them, or you're threatening their free expression, their autonomy? But really the idea is to teach them that accountability goes with the autonomy, but they're rejecting it. That's called immaturity. It's like trying to tell a teenager how to be the first person to protect themselves, how to be the first person to manage themselves in a way where they don't have to call their brother to come beat somebody up, where they don't have to cry in their bedroom about what happened, but to remember that character is your first line of defense. Accountability is your first line of defense. And you're not a victim. You have intuition. You also have the ability to show obedience to what you understand, what you know to do or not to do. So how are you a victim? And who are you a victim of? When you have consent and authority at all times. So these are the talking points that had to be showed to females. And females were protected by this universe, by cancel culture, so that the arguing would not damage them, but that it would deliver the revelation that they really need, because females called and asked for freedom and liberty, and they got freedom and liberty. But what did they do with it? They hurt themselves with it. So the arguing that took place in this civil war, it was to enlighten the female, the Venus female, who could not ascend to the moon as a woman. Understand? So this is the timeline now that we are living in today. After Trump took office, it reflects back that the people want Mars as the new governor, okay, of their spiritual journey, which is Ogun. This places truth back at the forefront. And what this is a sign of is that females are now mature enough to handle and receive truth. They're mature enough to step into reality of truth and not the delusion of Venus. It's time for them to graduate out of that. They are new to having freedom and liberty to the extent that they have it today. But you cannot receive freedom and liberty without competence, without training, We have to remember females are new to freedom and liberty to the extent of absolute. They hurt themselves with it. Anybody who's new to doing something that wields power is going to hurt themselves until they get trained, until they get taught. So feminism was a training ground. It was teaching women what to and what not to do with your freedom and liberty. Now they understand. The only way they could have been taught that was through feminism. Do what you want to do and blame everybody else for it. You're a victim. Everybody else is to blame. Everybody's out to get you. And what that does is it sets her up to realize where her power and authority is by her own hands. To realize where her consent is by her own hands. To realize where her power is by her own hands. To realize where accountability and obedience has to play into her life, where obedience to her intuition has to play into her own life by her own hands. Feminism was enlightening. It was an enlightenment. Now, she's at a place where she's expected to show and prove that she understands that. And she surely does. She may resist it, but surely she does understand now. Mars going through Cancer, it brings us back to a place where the culture now has to reflect the leadership. The White House is red. The White House is no longer liberal. It's no longer democratic. The White House is Republican now. The White House is conservative now. The White House is red. Therefore, the whole country is going to reflect that. Once the White House is red, media turns red. Understand? Media will no longer be owned by liberals. It will no longer be the liberal perspective. It will no longer be the democratic perspective. It will no longer be washed down with feminism and the female's point of view. The female will not own the narrative. There will be an equal share of the narrative. There will be a fair, balanced share of the narrative. Sometimes she's wrong. Sometimes she's right. Sometimes he is right. Sometimes he is wrong. And that's the truth. That is the truth. Sometimes she abuses him and sometimes he abuses her. That is the truth. That is the truth. The narrative will no longer be owned and dominated by racism and feminism. Entitlement. Pink painted roads and buildings. No, no more. The narrative will now be taken over by conservatives. Republicans, they will have the media. They will be the influence behind movies that we watch, TV shows that we watch, the music that we listen to. Society will reflect a Republican disposition. When society reflects a liberal disposition, it is violent. It's full of single parents, single parent households. And the sons become terrorists and the daughters become little whores. That's the damn truth. The communities are not safe. It's dysfunctional. People act like niggas in liberal communities and liberal cities. You have girls licking girls and boys sucking boys in liberal cities. That's just the way it goes in liberal culture. Hypersexuality. I'm a strong woman and I do it by myself. I don't need no man. That's liberal culture. Family, the family unit in marriage is not honored, promoted, or embraced in liberal culture. Liberal culture worships careers, degrees, money, materialism, and hypersexuality, racism, victimization, race hustling, personality politics. These are the things that come with that, with liberalism. You're going to see that the streets are going to be cleaner through a Republican government. There's going to be less crime. There's going to be tough on crime policies. There's going to be a lot of accountability. There's not going to be any DEI hiring. Nobody's going to get into offices and seats that they do not qualify for. Your personality is not going to get you through. Your big old butt is not going to get you in that office. It's not going to get you that dollar. It's not going to get you that favor. Those days are over. That energy does not have accommodation in the earth anymore. There will be no more entitlement for light skin and cute. No more. That story is over because we already learned from that cartridge, that catalyst. It's a cigarette that's already smoked out. Understand? You're down to the cigarette butt. It's out. It's gone. Throw it out. You trying to smoke and pull more smoke off of the cigarette, and you down to the cigarette butt. Throw it out. It's gone. It's over. Understand? So this is what's coming in the concentration of the 6-month transit with Cancer, the culture, because the war has already been won. The war was through the ethereal. The culture is through the emotional. And the culture has to come through the emotional because the culture has to reflect a wisdom that serves as an instinctual and intuitive knowing of what compromises the security of self. Okay? And that comes through Cancer only. Only Cancer can formulate that culture. New standards are here. The conservative woman is going to be lifted all the way up. The moon was with Pluto when it went direct towards Aquarius out of Capricorn. That is a sign that the woman is going to be held up and empowered. The female is going to be transformed through her processes and stages of disillusionment, cognitive dissonance, anger and resent, depression as the ego dies to the illusion and the lies that she subjected herself to. And then she resurrects and she becomes a woman. And all of her experience behind her serves as wisdom. Understand? So many females of our society who subscribe to feminism and liberalism, they are ghosts. They are ghosts. And what a ghost is someone who dies attached to the material density of this world so they cannot pass on. They are attached to what they want it to be true. They're attached to what they want it to be empowered, to what they want it to continue and live on. A delusion, an illusion, trickery, ego, arrogance, narcissism. But now that it has died, they're still attached to something that died. They are ghosts. They didn't have identity to fall back on. Their identity was the crowd. Their identity was the comment section. Their identity was the South Node Libra. Their identity was a yes girl crowd. Their identity was public opinion. Their identity was whoever gave them validation. Their identity is what the celebrity said. Their identity is what the TV show said. Their identity is whatever the news channel told them is true or not, because they don't have critical thinking skills, because they don't have identity. They're in crisis. They're ghosts roaming the earth without a body, without their first house, without their Aries, without knowing who they are. They're lost. They're confused. And you have to go through all of those stages at the point of disillusionment, because at the point of disillusionment, you're being asked to let go of what you wanted to be true so that you could embrace what is true. Have acceptance. And that's the point of transformation towards empowerment. Females of society are in that deep crisis right now. And this is especially true to the most attractive females, the influential females. Understand, effeminate males as well. Guys who are effeminate, they're going through the same crisis. Anyone who has that ghetto spirit about them, that addiction to the idealism of celebrities attached to their spirit, yeah, you're going through something right now, because this is not what you want. For those who cannot accept that Ogun descends with fire and blood, if you cannot accept that, embrace that, you're going to have a hard time accepting what's coming out of the Trump cabinet, the Trump office. You're going to have a hard time accepting it because you're not going to understand why it is a necessary balance to the chaos. It takes considerable control to submit this chaos under order again so that there can be restoration of balance. But you're not going to be able to accept that if you didn't accept those things within yourself, that must be the case. That's what you call creating your own classroom. You create your own classroom when you reject the truth. And that classroom is called karma. Understand? So, anyway, liberal versus conservative esoteric backstory is what this is, all right? Esoteric being that, ethereal esoteric backstory is that behind all of this is spiritual energy that's moving and expressing itself through a physical reality or experience. Learning from the Gemini Mars Civil War transit, okay? This is a Civil War transit that took place, and it just ended when Trump got elected. So the war was won. Now the culture has to establish itself, and the way that it establishes itself is through the emotional transformation that has to take place within the self, Cancer, okay? Next is going to take place through media. Media is going to start reflecting the new energy that is here. The masculine is going to be picked up. The man of society is going to be picked up. The blue collar man is going to be the ideal simply because the conservative woman is now the ideal. The ghetto woman is not the ideal no more. The wig wearing, lash wearing female who cannot accept herself, cannot love herself, cannot embrace herself, but becomes a sex object in and of her own hands, dysfunctional. Baby mama wanted drama and creating and recreating baby mama culture all over and over again. Single mama culture. The lover of Pookie. The baby factory of Pookie. She no longer is the ideal. Big Booty Judy is not the ideal. The conservative woman is now the ideal. Motherly, wifely, skilled as a woman, in touch with herself as a woman, accepting of herself, finding beauty through who she actually is, not through the Chinese woman's beauty store, not going to the China lady for beauty products, not products, but actual plastic and weave and all kind of other things to glue and sew into her body. She accepts herself, the conservative woman. Having values, family is her joy and pride. The conservative woman has a different desire, a different taste, a different want and need of a man. The conservative woman takes pride in associating herself with the image of the original man, Ogun, the blue-collar man, the man who works with his hands, the man who's constructive, the man who's productive, not an imitator of art, music, videos, and all this other stuff, TikTok, and this dysfunctional bullshit that we've been dealing with through liberal females emoting to the males what they want and desire, and then the males become that so that they can have the girl. I'm a witness of this at 41 years old. The women of my community, they reject us if we don't come as thugs. They reject us if we don't dress as thugs, if we don't behave as thugs, if we don't think, walk, and talk like street niggas. If we don't show up like that, they don't want nothing to do with us. And that's the holy God truth. That is the infallible truth. Nobody can refute that. Nobody. And of course, there'll be somebody, oh, not me. You a damn lie. Every one of them motherfuckers thinks like that. They may overcome it, but that's exactly how they think. And this is why the males of our community, they massively aspire to put on that image, because that's the only way you will get the girl's attention. Thus manufacturing indirectly the image of the black male. Understand? So when the woman, the conservative woman, is upheld, she now has the narrative. She now has the authority. She now has the power and influence in society. She now has the way. She now has the role. She now has the spotlight. She now has validation. She now has the microphone. The conservative woman. Nobody's going to want to hear nothing that the liberal woman got to say. They ain't going to want to hear it. I am prophesying right now. I'm not speaking out my ass. I am prophesying. And you're allowed to hold this against me if it doesn't come true. Please. Please do. So far, everything I said came true. Everything. Once she is upheld, it's known what she desires. And men are going to get on board overnight. They're going to change. Overnight. Once it is known and seen that this is the one who has a microphone now, this is the one who has a spotlight, the conservative woman, it automatically changes the males. It changes how they dress. It changes how they walk, how they talk, how they deliver, how they present themselves, because the male will always desire the woman. It was Oshun who lured Ogun out of the wilderness. It was Venus who lured Mars out of dormancy. It is copper that lures iron out of the intestinal tract of the body so that it could have usage. So as above, so below. Venus, Oshun, represents copper. Ogun, Mars, represents iron. And it even works the same way in biology. Biochemistry. If you want to change how males dress, walk, talk, and think, you adjust the female. Because whatever females show, not what they say, is what they show. Because if you ask a female, she's always going to say, I want a gentleman. I want somebody who's going to open doors. I want somebody who has manners. I want a good guy. I don't like guys like that. But they're going to show you that they like the exact opposite. You can't take females' words for things. You have to watch what they do. You can't take what they say, because what they say don't mean nothing. You have to watch what they do. The young men watch and they see, oh, you like these kind of guys. And that's exactly how they show up, because they want the attention of the girls. They want to be able to get the girls because the guys are the hunters of the girls. Understand? They're going to put on that camouflage. So with us having conservative women coming up through the Cancer Mars transit, this is transforming the woman. It's making her conservative now. Mars, conservative energy. Mars is the father of conservative energy. It is the master of conservative. It is the lord of conservative energy. Mars. That comes from Mars. It has its mastery when it pairs with Saturn. Understand? Mars and Saturn. So as women become conservative, her appetite and desire is obviously expressed as wanting a conservative experience. And now males are going to transform overnight to fit that image. The conservative man, the blue collar man. Understand? Anyway, I think I emphasized that enough. Now, Oshun or Venus versus Ogun or Mars. According to Ifa Yoruba tradition, Oshun started out with Ogun, married to Ogun. In other words, what this explains is that the desire of females in ancient times, prior to modern times that is, has always been attracted to the blue collar man. the working man, the constructive and productive man, the man who can till the ground, who can cut wood, who can fix and build. She has always been attracted to that. That's what this represents, that Oshun was first married to Ogun, or Venus was first married to Mars. Copper was married to iron. Okay? The progressive story is that Oshun left Ogun for Shango. Okay? Shango and Ogun were at the marketplace and they fought over Oshun. But Oshun chose Shango, or Uranus. Okay? That is Uranus. Uranus represents zinc. Okay? Zinc. Now, Oshun, Venus or copper, fights off bacterial infection. Ogun, Mars or iron, fights off viral infection. Zinc fights off progressive viral infection. So that is the order. You see? Okay? Now, Uranus or Shango, zinc, it has no relevance without the time continuum, the order of Mars being first. Mars is the first line of defense. Iron is the first line of defense in the immune system against viral infection. Zinc comes into play once it has set in already. Okay? So there's no comparison of Ogun and Shango, Uranus and Mars, zinc and iron. You can't compare them like one is better than the other, because without Ogun, there is no Shango as far as how we relate to it. Because the basis of man is Ogun. The foundation of man is Ogun, that root chakra. He is our deepest ancestor in the masculine spirit, the masculine disposition. The root and foundation of the masculine disposition is Mars, Ogun. Shango is the progression of the divine masculine, the man. The progression, the advancement of. Okay? Venus leaving Ogun for Shango, what this indicates is the appetite and desire, the preference of the female, it has progressed with the timeline. So as the male nature has found higher frequencies, has found its mastery, which is through Uranus, which is mastery and genius, through technology and through revelation of information, which is Uranus. It changes his character, it changes his power, it changes his authority, it changes his image, it changes everything about him. Uranus represents that change, innovation. It innovates the man. Uranus represents the innovation of man. Okay? Where at one time, we used to be at an age where bloodshed was the call of the day. War was the call of the day. Barbarianism, heathenism, the days where you have to get up and strap down the horse, right? You walk around with 2 guns on your side, spitting tobacco everywhere. You understand? We came through many phases. Every generation is weaker but wiser according to what the Bible says, right? As we look back, our forefathers were stronger. Ogun is stronger than Shango, right? But Shango is more advanced than the strong Ogun. He's more advanced. And he's advanced because he has access to technological convenience through electricity. All right. Also, the wisdom of culminated experience through time, which again comes back to Aquarius, wisdom. Uranus rules Aquarius. That's a house of Shango. Okay? So, Ogun represents the creativity of man. Shango represents the innovation of man. So we can create, but to innovate is a mastery. You see? That's a mastery. Now, wisdom also goes with innovation because it takes wisdom to innovate. Because knowledge cannot innovate, knowledge can only create. Wisdom innovates because wisdom improves that which was created. It advances that which was created. So as I'm explaining this, obviously, you can understand why Oshun would leave Ogun for Shango. He's the better version of Ogun, the new model of Ogun, the progressive of Ogun. Understand? Now, Ogun gave us technology, and some may say, okay, Shango also gave us technology. Okay, but what's the difference? Technology is as simple as a wheel. Technology is as simple as starting a fire with 2 fucking sticks in the woods. That's technology. When you take elements of nature and you manipulate it for a service to yourself, that's technology. And what allows you to do that? Creativity is what allows you to do that, and that is Ogun, technology. Okay? Now, this also can be spiritual as well. Through certain transits and aspects that take place in life, you go through things and you learn how to overcome those things or manage those situations. You're developing spiritual technology within yourself. The same way. It's the same thing. And that's through the power of creativity. All right? Which is the father of Ogun, which is Obatala or Jupiter. Okay? Understand? And the vision comes from Olokun or Neptune. Okay? Those are the 2 forces that works directly over Ogun. All right? Now, what's the difference in technology? For example, let me give some more examples of that technology of Ogun. Creating the roads, fire, iron, making a wheel, a horse and buggy. You know what I'm saying? Building a house, a scaffold, a blacksmith, right? A barber. All of these things are technology. Now, when you add electricity, now we're talking about Shango. So you could create something, but it's not electric power, right? Like you got a river and you put a mill at the river, a well, like a mill well at the river, if that's the right word for it. It doesn't need electricity because it's powered and generated by the kinetic force of the flowing water, right? When you add like a generator, a turbine or something like that, to pump water and stuff, now you're talking about Shango. That's different. So when you add electricity to the technology, now we're talking about Shango. So as you can see, Ogun and Shango are the same principle, but one is the advancement and one is the foundation. If you remove the foundation, you don't have advancement. It's just like our ancestors. You cannot separate yourself from your ancestors, because if you separate all that your ancestors have accomplished, you would not exist as you are. You walk in the light of their wisdom and experience. And collectively, we walk in the light and wisdom of our ancestors' experience as human collective. Understand? So there's no comparison to the two. One is better than the other one's. No, there's no comparison. That's like comparing iron to zinc. and how it relates to the biochemistry in the body. Is zinc better than iron? Is iron better than zinc? How the fuck you gonna answer that question? Because zinc is just as essential as iron is to the body. They have different roles and functions. What the fuck is you talking about? Understand? So it demonstrates the biochemical relationship between copper, iron, and zinc as well. Okay, there's a biochemical relationship here. As I explained to you, copper does bring out the performance or usability of availability of iron. Okay, just like in the story where Ogun was vilified for the technology that he gave to the world. Yes, he gave technology, but it caused pollution and destruction of trees and plant life and things like that. Okay, obviously, if you go to a construction site, you will understand exactly what the people were grieving about. Look at all this trash. You killed all these trees, but yet you built a house from it. So it's like a give or take. But yet they were holding him accountable for that. Like, okay, yeah, it's nice that you gave us this technology. Okay, but look at the destruction it does. So that is the crisis of, not crisis, but the dilemma. That's the dilemma of creative technological process and the delicate value of nature, okay, that has to find its balance. Ogun felt bad for that, so he retreated into the wilderness because they basically were blaming him for being who he was. That's his nature. It's what he came to earth to do. They were criticizing and judging him for being exactly what he was born to do and born to be. Just like males of society through feminism. Feminism blamed, accused, and judged and criticized males for being exactly what they are and who they are and what they're designed to be. Okay? Males are designed to be and think and react a certain way when it comes to females, and feminism made it all illegal. Feminism made it all something that is a crime. Like it's a crime to be a male. It's a crime to be a man. It's a crime to have this nature, okay, of the masculine. All right? It did the same thing. And he retreated into the wilderness, and all of the Orishas, 401 Orishas, they all tried to come and get him. Well, 400. Oshun was the 401st to come and get him out, and she was successful because the feminine principle is what moves the masculine principle. And that will always be a law. And this is part of why it's important for females to cover, okay, to have a code of modesty, because of how powerful she is, how magnetic she is, and how much power it has over the male principle. So to not acknowledge that and to be reckless with that, that enters us into witchcraft, understand, okay, where you are stepping into abuse of power through the lines of nature. Understand, recklessness in the lines of nature. So this story of Ogun losing to Shango, he's basically losing her to a version of man that has conformed to modern ideals and terms and expressions. This version goes very well with it's like the comparison of the house nigga and the field nigga. You know what I'm saying? It's a comparison of the office, corporate, paper pusher, you know what I'm saying? Or you know, type of personality versus the guy who fixes cars and builds houses, you know, blue collar versus white collar. You understand? It's a difference of that. It also goes a line of the apprentice versus the master, okay, as well. Now, Shango also represents the rebel and the revolutionary. So she lost her appetite for the stable conservative expression of man, and she sought fulfillment through the revolutionary and rebel in the spirit of man. If she is not mature, she will cling to or make herself available to a rebel without a cause. She will make herself available to a revolutionary without a revelation. Okay. And that is a crisis. That is Pookie and Ray Ray. Understand? That is a Pookie and Ray Ray. All right. The rebel without a cause, the revolutionary without a revelation. That is Pookie and Ray Ray. And that's why she's attracted to Pookie and Ray Ray. She's seeking that energy, but without understanding. She will seek the energy without illumination. She will seek the shadow of it rather than the light of it. If she has low self-esteem, she will not see herself worthy as having the illuminated aspect of Shango. So she will go for the dark aspect of Shango because that's all she feels like she's worth. So her self-esteem is very important to how she chooses out here. Understand? Okay. Now, with Elon Musk purchasing Twitter and starting, given the platform that would initiate the civil war, the war between Mars and Venus, it comes to a head where now we see clearly that males have retreated, okay, into the wilderness. And just as the story went in the beginning, it's females who have to call them out of the wilderness. How will this take place? Just like I'm explaining to you. When the conservative woman is risen up, she is going to call the conservative man out of the wilderness. And that is when the conservative man will take over society, not Pookie and Ray Ray. Okay? So when she is in the version of herself that is liberal, she will call the liberal man out, which is Pookie Ray Ray and the effeminate man. Okay? Those are her alliances. All right? When she's in that state of delusion with herself. Okay? When she comes into enlightenment as a conservative woman, she calls out the version of man that is mature, the conservative man, through Ogun. Okay? She will call out the constructive, productive, creative Ogun. All right? This has to be understood so that we know how to relate to the energy that's coming. Ogun is coming back out of the wilderness, and it's the conservative woman who's going to call him out of the wilderness. All right? Pay attention to what I'm saying. This is how important the woman is. All right? The conservative men are not going to come out by themselves. They're not going to do it. They're going to come out when they start seeing conservative women promoting conservative ideals and ideologies. That's when they're going to start coming out. That's when they're going to change hats. They're going to change outfits. They're going to change their talking points. They're going to change their expression, change their image. They're going to change everything to make sure that they look like who would be a fitting partner for her, because that's what men do. They change themselves to hunt successfully, to hunt women successfully. Understand, all right? Conservative woman is going to call Ogun out of the wilderness, okay? Now, the conservative woman carries the influence of Yemeya more than she does the influence of Oshun. Oshun is her core. Yemeya is her formed image. Okay? Core and image are two different things. Now, her image includes her character. Okay? It includes her character. So Yemeya or Yemoja informs her character. And that is, she has obedience to her intuition. She does not gamble with her need for security. And her need for security obviously is satisfied through stability, values, morals, principles, integrity, cleanliness, not just cleanliness as in bleach and Ajax and Lysol, but cleanliness as in clean character, all right? A spiritual life, having integrity, values, morals, and principles. This is the version of woman that we are about to see in full expression, all right? Not the Glorrillas and Megan Thee Stallion fans out here that we've been dealing with for the longest. You know what I mean? We all hold and tricked out. We don't need no more of that. Niggas is sick of seeing ass shaking and degenerate behaviors. Like, please sit down. Like, stop it. Put some clothes on. Like I beg you, please put some clothes on. Niggas is tired of that shit. You know what I mean? That shit is dead. For real. Like, be real women. We need to see real women coming out for real. Like, it's a wrap for that. All the degeneracy, the wigs and the lashes and twerking and all this. Please sit the fuck down. Like, niggas is tired of that shit. No more. Can't, not another bite. You know what I'm saying? Now, this was very challenging to explain, I have to say. You know, I usually flow pretty easy with things, but this was very challenging to explain because there's so much in it to explain. If you have questions, please, by all means, ask questions. You know, now you can join me at my website, on my blogs, you know, at www.the-infamous-astrologist okay? You can join me there.com. I will be posting blogs on there. Sooner or later, I'm going to be moving my videos to there. And I'm going to move my videos to my website, really because on this platform, YouTube, this is a liberal platform, okay? And because I'm as conservative as I am, it's not a good fit for me, okay? I cannot be effective here because I choose to be a truth speaker. I'm not an entertainer. If I was an entertainer, then, you know, I probably have a huge audience. But I'm not going to be as effective as I can be from YouTube, okay? So I'm going to take my videos and my content and go on my website with it. And, you know, I'm going to build my environment and atmosphere there where I don't have to deal with liberal limitations, cancel culture, and shadow bans. You know, I'm shadow banned as I speak, okay, from this channel. There is a shadow ban, you know, over me right now, you know, which is why I'm not getting traction and promotion. You know, you're not allowed to speak against the mob. You know what I'm saying? But anyway, with that being said, thanks for your support. You know, ask questions if you need to. Again, check me out at my website. Join me, pass it around. And hopefully this explanation clarified things instead of increasing confusion. You heard?